Neko Monogatari Kuro is the fourth of Monogatari's many parts. A story about family, about love, and about the fact that nobody is as simple as they see. Even if they appear as white, there is always black there too. This of course being most pivotally explored through Hanekawa Tsubasa and the oddity she possesses, Black Hanekawa. So if that sounds interesting to you, then strap in for the 11th video in the Monogatari arc analysis series, where we will explore the beauty that is Neko Monogatari Kuro's Tsubasa family. So if you find yourself entertained at any point during the video, then consider liking, subscribing and ringing the bell. Anyway, on with the video. Neko Monogatari Kuro opens with a scene of pure horror. Araki screaming in terror as he is almost impaled by his sister. And although this is just a comedy scene, notice how as he screams, we see a cat. Could this be a representation of his fear of a certain cat, aka Hanekawa, as we see later in the series? The image of his pillow impaled of a crowbar, at least to me, reminding me of the end of this part with the Kokorotori sticking out of Araki's severed torso. But that aside, the story starts proper with a conversation between Araki Kaomi and his sister Araki Tsukihi. And the topic of their discussion is the matter of love, or well, what love is and how to tell if you are in love. Araki basically wants to know if he is really in love with Hanekawa, and so turns to his 13-year-old sister for help. Araki basically wants it to be a measurable thing. He wants to know at what point like goes to love. He wants to quantify it so he can understand it. Because if there is one thing very clear about Araki, especially this early into the story, it is that he does not understand himself very well at all. And so naturally does not understand his own feelings either. The issue is, love is not something so easily defined. As Tsukihi says, it just happens. There is no logic to love. That is kind of the message to take away from this conversation. Any reasons you give as to why you fell in love are just lies. Lies you tell to justify your own feelings. You conclude you are in love, then climb a ladder after the fact to reach said conclusion. It's almost as if to say that just feeling like you love someone is not enough. As if feelings alone don't amount to anything, hence the need to use reasons like looks and personality to justify your feelings. Araki accepts he does love Hanekawa. We see the pillow from before explode, showering the scene in feathers. And again, if we are to believe this is symbolic of the end of the arc, then this could represent how Araki's love for Hanekawa climaxed in him wanting to die for her. The pillow tore apart like he was in their fight. Love is normal, there's no need to overthink it, as is boys wanting to fondle breasts. As it turns out, maybe Araki doesn't actually love Hanekawa. Maybe he is just horny, he is sexually frustrated. After all, if he really did love just Hanekawa, he wouldn't consider fondling anybody else's boobs. Yet here he is doing it to his sister. This being about as blatant as an example you can get that the man is horny. So horny, any breasts, even his own little sister's, will do. And so the conclusion this scene reaches is that Araki is horny and not in love. Now in the anime, this is all this scene really amounts to, a simple conversation on the meaning of love and why Araki is sexually frustrated. But in the light novel, this scene has a way more important job, one I thoroughly explore in my How Monogatari Shows Family video. But to sum up that video here, in the light novel, chapter 2 of Neko Monogatari Kuro takes up a quarter of the entire book. And what does that chapter contain? Well, you know, just this scene. To quote the opening sentence of Neko Monogatari Kuro chapter 3, I carelessly consumed around 80 pages, or almost a quarter of this volume's thickness, playing around with my little sisters, so things are going to get more brisk from here. In a book that is meant to be about Hanekawa, we spend a quarter of it on one chapter of Araki talking to Tsukihi. The reason for this is that this chapter is meant to represent something. It represents family. When you open up Neko Monogatari Kuro and start reading, you soon realise you are 50 pages into a chapter with no sign of the end in sight. This chapter feels long, it feels unending, and it doesn't really tell you anything that important. But even so, it is damn entertaining. It's easy and nice to read, you don't want to put the book down because it's such a fun dialogue between two siblings who act like they don't like each other, but at the same time, they love each other more than anything else in the world. This chapter is Monogatari's definition of family. There is no reason to it, but it exists nonetheless. It seems pointless, but it is enjoyable and comforting nonetheless. This conversation between brother and sister acts as a prime example of a family, of what families are like. It goes on for 80 pages to hammer home the simple idea that families spend time with each other. They want to stay with each other inside their family home. And the reason this was necessary, why Nisho Ishin chose this book in specific to insert such a scene, is because it allows us to see clear as day the contrast between Araragi and his happy family, and Hanekawa's broken family. We subconsciously take note of Araragi and Tsukihi's 80-page conversation, and our mind associates this with the idea of family. Hence, when we get the picture painted to us of Hanekawa's family situation, we immediately think something is wrong because it does not match the image of a family we were so blatantly shown earlier in the novel. Basically, this scene shows us what a family should be. It gives us a baseline to compare Hanekawa's situation with, something we will shortly be discussing. But before that, we must quickly talk about the brief exchange between Araragi and Karen, where she gives her alternate definition of love. That if you look at them and want to have their babies, then that's love. And what I think the point of this dialogue is, in less, Monogatari sexual terms, is it's the idea that if you love someone, then you can envision your life with them. And this is something Araragi himself will come to question later in the arc, hence why I believe this line is set up for that line of thinking later in this arc. Plus, that's also one of my favourite pieces of dialogue in the series, so I wanted to mention it. Now finally, the namesake of the arc, Hanekawa, makes her appearance. However, when she comes into view and we pan up her body, we don't even make it to her face, instead stopping at her chest. Because remember, we are seeing the story through Aragi's eyes, and hence we see what he sees. And when he sees Hanekawa, the thing he focuses on are her breasts. Her chest is all he sees. Really adding some evidence to these horny allegations. Only after his fixation on her breasts do we finally get to see her face, but her eyes are hidden behind whited out glasses. And remember, this is before she has realised Araragi is there, aka this is the true Hanekawa, not the persona she projects well around him. Therefore, these whited out eyes may represent her truer self. With her real eyes appearing the moment she notices him, she is putting on the act of the perfect high school girl when she knows she is being watched. And watch how she hides her panties, even though the wind is trying its best, she won't let them be exposed. And this is very much important because, as mentioned in the Kaomi Vamp video, these panties of hers are actually very symbolic of their friendship. The fact Hanekawa is actively hiding them may suggest that what she wants from their relationship is not sexual. She doesn't want him looking down there, she wants him looking at her. Her intentions are love, not sexual frustration, the reverse of Araragi. She offers a very friendly and energetic greeting, an energy Araragi does not meet with his own reply. In response to this reaction, we once more see her eyes whited out and the word failure. Again, we must keep in mind this energetic high school girl is a persona she puts on, an act. And so when it fails and her real self leaks out for a minute, not surprising given what's just occurred, that we will explore in a bit, it is nowhere near as upbeat and her eyes are whited out. Araragi then makes a sexual advance, showing that unlike her, his goal is sexual, not romantic. And she slaps him as a result, because even though she wants Araragi to be interested in her, and I think deep down she'd even let this slide for the attention, the normal thing to do when someone flips your skirt is to slap them, so that's what she does. But as he falls, he sees her panties, and they are black. The opposite colour from what we were used to back in Kaomi Vamp. These black panties obviously are representative of Black Hanekawa, but they also serve to show Hanekawa's in general dark side, the one that is about to come out due to the events that just occurred at her home. We all as people have both good and bad in us, light and dark, white and black. However, for most of us we exhibit both. Hanekawa though only exudes white and hides the black, hence why she was hiding her panties as they represent her dark side that she wishes to keep hidden under the light on the surface. She calls him kind and helps him up, making again very clear her slapping him wasn't done with any actual emotion, just that it's what one in that situation should do. Hanekawa steers the conversation onto family. When Araragi mentions fighting with his family, she says they are in the same boat. She is looking for affirmation her situation isn't that bad, that she hasn't completely failed to create a family. So the moment Araragi says he sometimes is the instigator when fighting his sisters, she jumps on that chance to prove her father hitting her wasn't all that bad. And feeling that based on this small confession of his, Araragi may accept the truth of her family situation as normal, she explains her home situation. Both her parents being, in her own words, complete strangers. In her mind, she has no family because her current parents do not share her blood, they are no kindred of hers. She explains how she tried to get on with them despite that, but came to conclude nothing goes her way. And remember this line that nothing goes her way, because it will be important when we reach the conclusion of this arc. Now Araragi finally gets round to asking about the bruise on her cheek, but she challenges why he would ask that. He says it's because a friend would, and then tries to logic out what friendship is, similar to how he did before with love. And this explanation works for Hanekawa because it is basically the same as what she does, acting how one is meant to act in a situation. Her father punched her, that is what caused the bruise. It is the catalyst, as we will soon see, for this arc's entire plot. Because it is the moment she is faced with the reality that her family is not real, that her efforts to be a good daughter had failed. But she won't admit it, she won't speak that reality into the world, and so she justifies her father punching her in the face. Now, it is not surprising that this elicits a response out of Araki, as well it's not good for a victim to be justifying their attacker. He finds her revolting, her standing up for her abusive father disgusts him to his very core. Araki speeds up, overtaking Hanekawa, maybe in an attempt to escape the conversation, not wanting to promise to never tell of her abuse to anyone. He only accepts this promise when Hanekawa promises to do something in exchange. Yet despite how it is presented and what we may expect, Araki does not use this deal to do anything lewd. Instead he uses his vampiric powers to heal Hanekawa's bruised cheek. Maybe suggesting his feelings for her aren't just sexual frustration, no, they are a lot more complicated than that. He worries her parents may notice how quickly her cheek healed, but by her own words, her parents don't even know her face. They wouldn't notice the change, building up the image of an uncaring home. Before we get to see this uncaring home ourselves though, we first pay a visit to Shinobu. Well, technically it's former Kishot Accelerator Heart Under Blader, but for simplicity's sake, we'll call her Shinobu. Now, although she is not in this arc much at all, Shinobu does act as an important foil for Hanekawa, at least in a small way. Shinobu, like Hanekawa, is also without family. After Seishiro killed himself, she was left alone for centuries. Even now in the current story, her relationship with Araki is strained, kind of like Hanekawa's relationship with her own parents. Vampires can make others their family by making them kin. Maybe Hanekawa was jealous of this, and that's where the idea to make the Sawari Neko her family comes from. You can also relate to how Shinobu also was suicidal in Monogatari, and it can be argued by the end of this arc Hanekawa is too. Now, Shinobu's arc from this point in the story onwards, as we see in Baki Monogatari and Nisei Monogatari, is accepting her situation and making the best of it, becoming true family with Araki, and Hanekawa comes to follow a similar arc. However, in this present arc, both her and Shinobu face the same situation, alone, unable to reach out to the person, Araki, they want to rely on, and as such turn their misfortune into suffering, not making the most of their situation and instead doing the cowardly thing and letting those negative feelings build up. I mean, maybe the fact both Shinobu and Black Hanekawa have an energy drain to show how they just keep on taking on the negative emotions of their situation. And as Oshino says, the reason Shinobu acts like a child is because Araki sees her that way. He, as her closest kin, is the one who exerts the most power on her. In that way, he may even fulfill a father-like role, only adding to the parallels between Shinobu and Hanekawa. And well, in a way, there's also a parallel between Araki and Shinobu and Hanekawa and Black Hanekawa, two oddities trying to help their human kin to regain normality, be it returning Araki to humanity or removing Hanekawa's stress. But the key difference is that Araki felt pity for Kishot and that's why he helped her, whereas Hanekawa felt no pity for the Sawari Neko when she buried it. It's kinda like the reverse. Araki pitied Kishot and became her kin, the Sawari Neko pitied Hanekawa and became her kin. But okay, I've mentioned the Sawari Neko a few times now, but what exactly is this cat's deal? Well, after rubbing his blood on Hanekawa's cheek, the two stumbled upon a silver cat without a tail. A dead one. And Hanekawa, out of the kindness of her heart, buried the cat and gave it a prayer. Real nice wholesome stuff. But it didn't stop at that. The cat possessed Hanekawa, taking over her body and transforming her into Black Hanekawa. Well, that's the understanding Araki has of the situation at least. And when he first sees Black Hanekawa, how does he recognise their identity? Because of their boobs. And then he notices the ears and it's like, oh shit, maybe it's not. And then he sees her panties and it's like, oh shit, yeah, this is her. In other words, the things that Araki uses to confirm Hanekawa's identity are her boobs and her panties. Man is not beating the sexual frustration allegations. And then we get a very interesting line from Black Hanekawa, that she's not totally sure, but friends are meant to help each other out. And considering she shares a brain with Hanekawa, could this go back to the idea that Hanekawa doesn't actually understand friendship and only how it should work? She plays the role of a friend, to a very extreme extent as shown in Monogatari, but she doesn't understand it herself. Black Hanekawa passes over to Araki the energy drained bodies of her parents. In order to rid Hanekawa of stress, she is blowing off steam through acts of violence. She is choosing violence, taking the easy way out. The plan is for her to vent all Hanekawa's stress for now, and then when it builds up again, she does the same thing all over. It's a stopgap measure at best, an endless cycle of negative emotions. When Black Hanekawa suggests killing her parents, Araki is very alarmed. Now I imagine this is because he would never expect such words to come out of Hanekawa's mouth, but what we must remember is Black Hanekawa is still Hanekawa. It's in a way a more true Hanekawa, one that doesn't uphold the mask, the act of a normal perfect girl. So this indifference to her parents' death is a genuine thought of Hanekawa, showing just how much Araki sees of the real Hanekawa, or maybe how much he chooses not to see. And again, since this is actually Hanekawa speaking, when she says it's everyone else's fault and rips off Araki's arm, this shows how she lashes out at the world. She either bottles it up or blames the world itself. There is no in between, no grey. It is either black or white, the act of a normal girl or a murderous cat girl. And so she doesn't care what she does to the world or the people around her, so she will harm them, because what's she got to lose? The following scene is more plot exposition than anything, but we do get one exchange I'd like to point out. Oshino says it would be a problem for Shinobu if Araki dies, and Araki agrees, saying she'd lose her source of nutrition. And well, as is obvious to us, that is not the reason why she'd be upset. It's because, you know, she cares about him. But Araki, dense as always, does not see that. This, remember, is all before Bake Monogatari, and Araki is yet to understand his connections with others. The fact Shinobu is essential for his use of vampiric abilities being the reason he was able to heal so fast, shows that their master-servant dynamic is not one where one party holds more power over the other despite how he treats her in the earlier scene. What Araki soon comes to understand though is the terror of Hanekawa's situation, as when he sneaks into her house, he is horrified to his core. Because this house was not Hanekawa's home. Not a single one of those rooms was her bedroom. Araki leaps out the window to escape the terrifying situation, mirroring Black Hanekawa, who too in a way is trying to escape, and seeks out Skihi for comfort, a pretty clear representation that family equals safety. He wants to help Hanekawa, but at the same time he thinks he's better off not knowing. Ignorance is bliss, as they say. As Araki says, if you're going to selfishly admire someone only to be disillusioned later, then maybe you shouldn't try to get to know them better at all. But at the same time, to just admire someone without delving deeper, to just focus on the good and ignore the complicated, is just cherry picking. Is friendship just the white, or is it the black too? That is the question Araki is faced with. In the following scene we come to understand just how strong Black Hanekawa is. The normally weak Sawari Neko with the knowledge of Hanekawa has become a true monster, one that goes around attacking people, because as Oshino says, the Sawari Neko isn't that kind of oddity. Once again, evidence that Hanekawa's true motives are what fuel this cat. If we look at the tale of the Sawari Neko, this only makes sense. It is the story of a virtuous man who buried a dead cat, only to start acting badly. This was blamed on the cat, and so the cat was exorcised from the man. Except there never was a possession. The man was just acting with a side no one had seen before. There was nothing supernatural at all, no oddity involved. In short, no human is all virtue. Kindness is but the tip of the iceberg. If a man shows light, he must also have dark. If he appears white, he is also black. But the thing is, the cat always has to come out of the bag, and the dark side one doesn't want to show will eventually rear its head. Yeah, I know, this sounds very similar to Ogi, but we got a while so we get to talk about them. Hanekawa won't admit she's not perfect, that she has faults, has black, and so the stress piles up, and the cat comes out. Now Araki is missing Hanekawa, he is worried about her, and how he shows this is by licking the place her breasts usually rest. Once again, the image of her in his mind is one dominated by her sex appeal. It's the image of her he sees. But what's more important is that Hanekawa is a lot more than that. We as the audience know she is more than just boobs, and so this helps us to realise later on in this arc that just like how there is more to her than Araki sees, there's also even more to her that we don't see. Now, one thing of interest is that the Sawari Neko is not the kind of oddity to go around indiscriminately attacking people. It's not part of its oddity tale, so it's not in its nature. Yet Black Hanekawa is going on a rampage, and as we know, it's for the purpose of stress relief. But as Araki says, oddities aren't capable of that kind of behaviour. And well, as we already know, that's because the person Araki is talking to isn't just an oddity, it's Hanekawa. It's her dark side that likes to lash out, likes to cause pain, and in doing so has fun. Hanekawa, like all of us, has times where she takes pleasure in the misfortune of others. After all, she is still human, and by Black Hanekawa's own words, this method yielding results. Her attacks are nowhere near as violent as they had been when she tore off Araki's arm. But then again, maybe this wasn't the full truth. Maybe Hanekawa's own dark desires push her to be so violent with Araki. because love and violence are two sides of the same coin, because she thought it would spur him on to save her, or maybe she resents him for not accepting her feelings. The reason is up to speculation, but it can't be ignored she was way more violent to him than even her abusive parents. With even more hints that Hanekawa is not the one under control when it's explained that although Hanekawa did bury the Sawari Neko, it was not out of kindness, and as such there was no kindness for the cat to exploit. She did it because you should. No kindness, no pity, no emotion. She followed a formula one follows to be a perfect high school girl. Her morals are like a machine, no emotions in her actions, and so the Sawari Neko wanted to save her. But again, this isn't the Sawari Neko speaking anymore, not totally. This is Hanekawa. Made even clearer when she states she didn't kill Oshino in their fight because he is a friend. But then again, she will happily threaten to kill her own parents. These are Hanekawa's true feelings. And even if Araki tries to dispute this, he can't, because these are Hanekawa's, not the cat's feelings. The thing is that, as Araki points out, this is all a stopgap measure. The stress may go, but it will build right back up. This is not a solution. But then after Black Hanekawa leaves, Araki comes to realise his feelings for her. Like Skihi said, it just happens. Araki does like her, so much he wants to die for her sake. But he can't see himself living a life with her, he can't abide by Karen's definition of love. He agrees with Skihi, it's not romantic love he feels, it's his own twisted love. One he will not hide, he will bear it to her. In that respect, he isn't that different from the cat. And so in order to accomplish this, Araki gives up his position as master, grovels to Shinobu, allows her to stand atop his face, placing him literally below her. And then Shinobu kicks him so hard he flies across the room. A little like what Hanekawa's father did to her, but because Araki is doing it for Hanekawa's sake, he can excuse his own hypocrisy. Speaking of this domestic abuse, Oshino rocks up and lays down the facts that Hanekawa was actually at fault, or more specifically, we can never know who was at fault or who was right. Both parties have their standpoints, their individual point of view. An outsider can never know the truth of the matter. It's similar to Oshino's save yourself ideology. The only one who can understand something fully is the person involved. Only they can decide what's right and what's wrong. Well, not even that. Who is right in reality is just who is more agreeable. Oshino doesn't take sides, but he allows both parties to have their reasons. Her parents had to live with Hanekawa for 12 years, faced with the image of perfection every day. It only showed to them their own imperfections, their own ugliness. As Oshino says, with great power comes great responsibility. Hanekawa put on this act, and by doing so she turned her parents against her. From that point of view, one can understand her parents' actions. By this logic, yes, everything is her fault. But that said, who's at fault is not what matters. What matters is who is more agreeable, and for Araki, he of course will always side with Hanekawa. And then we get the big reveal. Araki pretends his life is in danger, and Black Hanekawa rushes to his rescue. But why would the Sawari Neko do that? Because, well, it never was the cat calling the shots. Hanekawa, even if she is possessed or takes an oddity in, is still Hanekawa. Even if her personality or way of speaking changes, her character does not. And so his text to her is the test. Back in Kizu Monogatari, she said being friends means she'd give up her life for them. That is part of the formula of Hanekawa. So to test if that formula is still calling the shots, all he must do is pretend his life is on the line. Hanekawa will save her friends, oddity or not, that is who she is. That is what she was born as and grew up to be. By playing this part so long, she has turned into the real thing. She is so kind and so strong it overwhelms others. She is too blinding for others. But just turning around and attacking those people is not going to solve anything. She cannot change who she fundamentally is. Even an oddity cannot do that. As Araki says, she just has to suck it up. She says she is only human, but Araki points out she gave herself up to an oddity. She gave up her humanity. Everyone has misfortune and stuff out of their control, but they don't turn to an oddity for help, they just suck it up. Misfortune does not equal suffering. Not being blessed doesn't mean you have to sulk. A situation is what you make of it. This stress relieving spree of hers will do nothing. She will go back to the same life as if nothing ever happened. She uses an oddity as an excuse. She hurts herself, she's not doing anything to make herself happy. Instead of doing what she can in her current situation to be happy, despite the misfortune, she puts on a mask, becomes the mask and lets the stress build up. Araki offers to fondle her breasts In his own way, he is reaching out a hand to help her, but it's not in the way she wants. She says Araki can play a starring role, but not a hero. These are her expectations of him. She wants a hero to come and save her, to wash all her problems away. That's what Black Hanekawa was, a grasp at salvation, both from the oddity saving her, but also for making her a damsel in distress for Araki to save. But there is no easy salvation. No hero can come and take away from all that misfortune. No one else can save her. He replies he can only play the role of a vampire, aka he can only live as someone carrying their own burden, their own trauma, their own misfortune. His life was hard too, he faced death, but he, in spite of that, he does what he can to be happy. He can't be her hero, and so she decides that she herself must die. Her last hope was severed, she never really wanted to be saved at all. She'd given up on the future, committed fully to the whims of the present, and with nothing left to live for, with all her actions till now for naught, she might as well just die. And he, wanting to die too, to fulfill his own messed up desire of love, wants to die too. And so, she kills him, destroys her one true love, a sign she is fine with ending it all, and slices him apart, but by doing so, she royally messes up. As concealed within Araki's body is the Kokoro Watori, the sword that can only cut oddities. A sword she did not know about. She lost because she didn't know something, because she doesn't know everything. She is not perfect, she is just a human. So as Araki says, she should not act like she knows everything and not give up on life. If there is still things to know about life, how can you give it up so easily? The thing about this all though, is it doesn't solve anything. Araki is aware of this, he acknowledges his methods solve nothing, which only makes sense. He is not a hero, he can't be. Only Hanekawa can save herself. Anything he does will not solve anything. It's why Oshino never won. If he wanted an ending like this, it would have happened in the first round, but that was not the ending he was after. Araki though never wanted to save her, just to die for her. He wanted to fulfill his own twisted desires for love, his weird self-sacrificial desire to die. As remember, this is pre-Monogatari, and Araki is still in this self-sacrificing phase. What surprises him though is that the cat doesn't do the same. He relates to the cat, they both love Hanekawa for the same reasons, but here the cat is causing Hanekawa pain. Well, it's more likely that Hanekawa herself is gripping hold of the cat, causing them both pain, but Araki doesn't see it that way. But he doesn't get to just die here. He is called short-sighted by Shinobu. By selfishly dying for Hanekawa, he is leaving her behind. In the same way he cares for Hanekawa, others care for him. Again, a lesson he goes on to learn in Monogatari. His selfish and twisted form of love. Dying for Hanekawa is not allowed to pass. Shinobu won't let him, and then Shinobu sucked Hanekawa dry, ending the ordeal in a way that solved nothing. But Araki says they are all good for nothing, but it's fine if they stay that way forever. And what does Hanekawa say? No way. And there is two ways to interpret this. Either she is still suicidal and doesn't want this life of hers to go on, or she knows we can change. Something she proves in the next arc, that even if she doesn't remember it, this was a learning experience, proving to her that what she really wants deep down isn't just to relieve stress and restore the status quo, she does want to save herself, to change. But now is not that time. But which of these two interpretations you want to take is up to you, and probably shows how optimistic you are or pessimistic you are. Life goes on the same as always, because again, nothing changed. This story has no happy ending, just an ending. Araki prays to the cat, maybe to thank it for trying to help Hanekawa just like him, or maybe to ensure it stays in the ground for good this time. Oh, and Shinobu gets a helmet, one that prevents head taps. Maybe seeing Araki throw his life away with no concern for her sake soured her on him some more. Hanekawa's memories of this week vanished, another thing that she does not know. Hanekawa in the end wanted Black Hanekawa to take on the responsibility. Even after granting her wish, she dragged that cat deeper into her heart, gripping the cat tightly for comfort and support. And then we get one of the most eye-opening statements in the entire arc. Hanekawa had always been possessed by an oddity, one called family. Because to Hanekawa, without a loving home or loving parents, family might as well be an oddity, just a fabrication, it isn't real. Oshino suggests he marry her and give her a real family, but Araki declines. He doesn't love her. Even if his feelings are of love, he won't say them out to the world. He was, in his own words, disgusted by the true Hanekawa underneath. He only loved the outside of her, perhaps not the true her. With him back in Monogatari coming to become true friends with her, all the sides of her. In the same way Black Hanekawa vented Hanekawa's stress, by dying for Hanekawa's sake, Araki vented his own pent-up frustrations, and with that twisted desire to die for her gone, his own feelings might now just be a lot clearer to him. But what he did wish for was Hanekawa to rely on him, though as Oshino says, maybe she did, he just was too dense to realise. What Araki learnt from this experience is his true feelings for Hanekawa. It cannot be called love, but at the same time they cannot be dismissed. Whatever they are deep within his heart, left in the past but still looked on fondly. He doesn't love Hanekawa, but thanks to her he learned how to love. He came to understand his own feelings, to understand himself, to finally understand what Tsukiji tried to explain to him. And he takes that lesson and those feelings into Bakemonogatari, climbing those stairs to meet the first person besides Hanekawa he will fall in love with. He is moving past his frustrations and on to the future. In my personal interpretation, the reason Araki calls Hanekawa his saviour is just as much due to this lesson he learns in Nekomonogatari Kuro as what she did for him in Kitamonogatari. But thanks to her, he goes on to make friends and then to fall in love. A love that one day may result in a family of his own. But that's a long way away, so for now, let's discuss the beauty that is. Perfect Slumbers opens with the appearance of something that will be a very common motif in this opening, an acoustic guitar. Now there's no way to say for certain what this guitar symbolises, but for me I think it is loneliness. After all, the acoustic guitar can be played alone. You don't need any other instruments as backing, one guitar is enough for a great performance. Her wielding such an instrument shows that she is alone. Now this guitar transitions to a moon, symbolising night. Given that white and black in this arc tend to represent her persona and her dark shadow, night too could represent her dark feelings, her image being black against the white showing that the true her is darker than we thought, surrounded or hidden by the white around her. The fact only one fortune slip is white could show how bad she feels her luck is, or how there is more black to her than white. We then see her travelling on a train. We see a lot of travelling in this opening, and I believe that is because this either represents Hanekawa running away, like how she gives up her normal life and embraces the Sawari Neko, or maybe since we know she goes on to want to travel the world, this is the future she wants but believes she can never attain, hence why she is asleep because she is dreaming. This isn't reality. She is trapped in a dream, a fantasy, one where her efforts of being perfect will magically make her loved by her parents, but that is not real, hence why her eyes are closed. As we see her travel, notice how there is never anybody else in sight. Again, she is alone. As she walks, she is surrounded by misfortune, but then she sees a rainbow. Could this be the Sawari Neko? Maybe Araki? Whatever it is, it gives her some hope, making her look up and not just at what's right in front of her. She is not looking just at the present. And then her silhouetted in all black, showing she isn't all white. And then her guitar, the sign of her loneliness, evaporates into rose petals and we see Araki. Maybe this shows how she looks to him to save her from a situation, how she wants the hero. But his love isn't reciprocal, she is too much for him, so she looks down on him. He can't even look her in the eyes because she is too blinding. He can't love her back the way she wants, hence why they are not positioned at the same level. He just wants to die for her sake, so isn't worthy of standing at the same height as her. And then lastly we see her braids break, exploding into unkept hair. This being Black Hanekawa's birth, especially of how it's all black surrounded by white. The lyrics tell of her love for Araki, of how it was born in the darkness, either a reference to the dark events of Kitamonogatari or her current home life, and then how he held his hand out to her but she was too weak to take it, but even so she still wants him to leave it out for her. She wants his attention, wants him to look at her, but she cannot commit to reaching out to him back, with her describing this as her ray of light in the darkness. With her saying she doesn't know the future of her love, because as we discussed, she's given up on the future. Also one cool detail is that there are no hard cuts, everything flows into one another, almost as if to show how her life never changes, it never gets better, the same just goes on and on and on. I want to take a quick minute to delve deeper into Hanekawa and her relationship to her parents, as despite her disdain for them, wanting secretly to cause them harm and calling them strangers, she still wants them to be her family. The problem is she went about it the completely wrong way. One of the big reasons she plays the perfect girl, strives so hard to be the best, is because she is trying to be a role model daughter, trying to be the kind any parent would be proud of. She thinks if she becomes like this, they will love her. that what will make them family is her being the best. But in reality, this only makes her blinding to them, pushing them even further apart. But because she is who she is, she instead blames herself, that she wasn't good enough as a daughter, and that's why they don't love her. This is why she forgives them, because she thinks it's her own fault that she deserves to be punished. But of course deep down she always knows the truth, hence why her dark side resents them. But these feelings stay deep down because the perfect daughter doesn't resent their parents. She forces them down deeper and deeper, letting trust build because she cannot allow herself to feel resentment. If she does, then she will never be a family with them. When her father hit her, it was the trigger for the events of this arc, because it was the moment she was confronted with the reality that she had failed, that despite her efforts, they were not family. The idea of the Jungian shadow is a constant in this series, be it with Araki and Ogi, Kanbaru and the Rainy Devil, and now Hanekawa and Black Hanekawa. The shadow that represents the things you don't show to the world. These are the parts of us we don't want others to see, that we consciously or subconsciously push down out of sight. For Hanekawa, this shadow is all the things that go against her goal of being the perfect girl, all the negative emotions she won't allow herself to express. This other side of her is her for the first time doing stuff for her own sake, and not in service to others. It is an excuse to reject the role she's been putting on for so long. It had become her. Due to the mask she wore for so long, her morals began to degrade to just a formula. But this is more than just burying cats on instinct. It also meant her morals when it came to hurting others lessened too, to the point her shadow was happy to kill her parents. The shadow is not a bad thing, it is as much a part of us as the persona we show others. To gain true fulfillment, one must embrace both the shadow and the persona. This of course being what Hanekawa does in Monogatari Shiro. But here in this arc, we see what happens when one refuses to let the shadow and the persona coexist. The most extreme case where a whole separate identity is needed just to express those feelings, the persona won't allow the world to see. Black Hanekawa in this arc serves as the ultimate example of the danger of suppressing the shadow, and why if you don't learn to accept it, it will build up and explode, because the cat can never be permanently kept in the bag. Before the conclusion of this video, I'd like to devote some time to the ending of this arc, Kyoru Daydream. As always, the endings are usually way less symbolic than the openings, but we can still pull some stuff out of it. The first shot is of these cat paws with magnifying glasses inside them or something. These represent the Sawari Neko, hence why when they move over Hanekawa, we see Black Hanekawa, like how the Sawari Neko allowed Hanekawa's true dark feelings to spring forth and be revealed. Then we get to the meat of the opening, Araki on his bicycle cycling forwards, getting back up no matter how many times he falls apart, which, since this is Araki, could be taken quite literally, like how he lost an arm in this arc but got back up, with us even seeing flashes of Shinobu as he is reassembled since she in this arc helps him to heal. Turns out what he's been cycling towards is a big heart, this either being his own feelings towards Hanekawa or her love for him. Either way he fails to reach it. For the former because he came to understand he didn't truly love her in that way, and for the latter because she never gets the love she may want. The lyrics for this ending though are awesome, and tell very much of Hanekawa's struggle, with the song saying, "Would it be a lie to say there is still time?" maybe referencing her want to die, and then her saying, "I don't want to be saved, I don't want to be rewarded, I just want to enjoy these fragile days," yet by the end of the song, we hear that their daydream is fading. The life they tried to live went away, as if just a daydream. Monogatari Kuro is a story about two people, Hanekawa Tsubasa and Araki Kaomi. Neither understands themselves, both are frustrated and both are forced in this arc to face their own darkest desires and either learn from them or give in to them. Hanekawa just wanted a family, put on a role for that reason, worked at it harder and harder, yet her parents didn't love her and the boy she loved only saw her boobs. Realising her efforts had failed, she gave up on the future. She gave into her impulses, doing stuff on a whim like a cat. She was fine living just in the present, chained down by her past. It's not hard to see why she concludes she should just die, because in her mind everything she ever worked for has failed. She wanted to end it all rather than hope for something better. Everything she worked hard to build, her family, her friends, she almost killed them, destroying everything she loves in a whim. She gave up on the future and wanted to die. Araki on the other hand thought he loved her, only to realise what he loved was just the act she put on. He didn't know the real her, and when he saw it, he wasn't impressed. He just wanted to die for her sake. That was his awful interpretation of love, but one he had to enact, to vent his own frustrations. Both wanted to die, yet neither did, both forced to keep living on. But whereas Aragi took these lessons and climbed the stairs towards the future to find a proper love, not one born from its unhealthy desire to die for somebody else, Hanekawa on the other hand forgot it all. Her other side, her true emotions, went to sleep. She continued on with the same existence as before, the one that made her want to die. The story examines the hidden side of people, the desires they keep under the surface, and how these two characters deal with these hidden feelings for better or for worse. He walks on, she looks away. He finds real love, she continues to live in this fantasy she created.
And if you want to support this channel even further, then perhaps pledge to my Patreon, or consider becoming a channel member, so you can get your name at the end of the video, like
Rinjack9696, Mr. Sputum, Marimo, Jack Hammer, Zolby and Eric Hinton.